everybody, Josh12 back here again with another video, and I'm here with my official review for Arrow Season 4, Episode 19, titled Canary Cry. Now, of course, if you haven't seen this episode, please go check it out because this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into the newest episode of CW's Arrow. Now, obviously, if you haven't noticed, if you're a viewer and or subscriber of my channel, that I haven't really been up to date with my reviews of Arrow on my channel. Now, of course, that has to do with two main reasons, and I did explain this in a previous Flash review on my channel, which, of course, if you haven't checked it out, I'll explain here. First off, I was very burnt out on TV shows. There was just so many TV shows that I was reviewing and watching on my free time, and it was just too much for me to bear. All I really want to do is just lay back, wait for all these TV shows to end with their seasons, and then binge watch on them. Which is basically what I've been doing with Legends of Tomorrow, which is freaking phenomenal to do. I'm just saying, just try it. Stop reviewing it for a couple weeks and just binge watch back to back. It's a phenomenal ride. But with that being said, I was just so burnt out that I just really couldn't keep up to date, so I had to miss out on several weeks of episode reviews, and, you know, all I can really say is sorry about that. And also, the second reason had to do with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I mean, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, no matter how anticipated and hyped I was for that movie, now that it's been released, all I can really say is it was a major disappointment. Granted, there were things about it that I actually liked, but at the end of the day, no offense to people who love that movie, but it was a major disappointment as a moviegoer and as a DC fanboy, and it was just, it really made me uninterested in DC content moving forward, and that's pretty much the two main reasons as to why I haven't really been reviewing, you know, Arrow, or pretty much making that much DC content videos on my channel. But with that being said, I did miss out on a couple of interesting episodes, which was, of course, episodes 18 and 17, and of course, if I can talk about them and recap and review in a brief, you know, synopsis of how I personally feel, then let me just get into it. First off, Beacon of Hope, which was episode 17 of Arrow Season 4. I did not like at all. I think it was god-awful. It was a terrible episode. Pretty much the worst episode of Season 4. It was, if you don't remember, it was the bee freaking character coming back. The Walking Dead girl, Beth, came back, and she was the villain of the week, and it was all about bees and, you know, I guess curing her disease that she suddenly had and what have you. It was just a weird, wacko, stupid episode. It was, the best way I can put it is that Beacon of Hope was cheesy with a chance of cheese. It was just such a cheesy-ass episode, not even worth watching. The best thing that came out of Beacon of Hope was, I guess, the plug-in for the Christopher Reeve Foundation. If they did not plug in the Christopher Reeve Foundation with that episode, I would give two shits about it. I mean, I hardly do as it is, but it's not even worth watching. But with that being said, the previous episode, last week's episode, 1159, wow, that was a pretty incredible episode, I'm not gonna lie. It has to be hands down my favorite episode of Season 4 of Arrow thus far. It's just a phenomenal episode. I loved it. I think it was pretty great how they ended it off and how they lead it up to this episode. Every build up, all the conversations, the action. Granted, there was some suspectful, you know, things that were awry and very odd. Like, for instance, the Diggle debacle, obviously. You know, John's freaking brother, Andy, was, you know, a suspect in this long range of, like, who's working for who and what have you, and it was just so blatantly obvious that he was working behind their backs that it was almost like, I don't even know why they even tried to play it off, but at the end of the day, it was a solid, good episode, and of course, leading into this episode, we finally figure out who's in the grave in Season 4. We've been debating this ever since Episode 1 of this season started, and it turns out it was Laurel Lance. And for me personally, I did not see that coming a mile away. I did not see, I can't honestly, I mean, like, my first suspect was freaking Felicity, or Diggle, or freaking Captain Lance, but no, it ended up being Laurel, and I think, in the long run, it's pretty much the best choice they could have gone with, because they already killed Sarah, they already killed Thea, they're not going to kill Felicity or Diggle. That's just, you know, it's impossible. They can't, it's like, Diggle, I mean, come on, Diggle and Felicity, that's like the Michonne and, you know, Daryl of The Walking Dead. They're not going to kill them off. They're making too much money off of them, so it's impossible for them to kill them off, and at the end of the day, I feel like Laurel was the best choice to go for this whole grave scene debacle. And at the end of the day, I think the way they played it off with last week's episode and with this current episode was amazing. I feel like it was just awesome the way they paid respect to not only the character, but also the memory of the Black Canary status, and of course the actress who portrays her. Because, let's face facts, the actress Katie Cassidy, I mean, like, we always been giving her shit since season 1, but there's no denial that she kicks butt, and she does kick a lot of ass, and she's pretty good at what she does, and I just find it kind of sad that it took this long to make her relevant. I know that sounds kind of messed up to put it in those kind of terms, but it's kind of true. It's like, wow, she was so great last week, and her death was so impactful, and it's like, wow, it took you this long, Arrow writers, to really make Laurel, the character that we've all been dreading since season 1, to actually be relevant, and you had to kill her off. It was such a weird thing, but at the end of the day, I still feel it was a good, impactful, and smart choice to go. And it also shows that we can have some really good grieving moments with this death, but also can continue on with this season, even if she's dead, in the memory of the character. And I think that was a good thing. It kind of felt like a throwback to season 2 when they got rid of Mora and they had, Oliver's mother, and they had those moments in the episodes of like, what are we going to do next? No, we have to continue on and defeat this villain. It felt like a good throwback to that. And also, this episode had a lot of throwbacks. It had a good throwbacks to, previous seasons, and it also had a lot of flashbacks of Oliver and Laurel's relationship and how it, flourished and died post Tommy Merlin's death of season 1. So it was a very interesting thing to go around with this episode. I feel like everything that had to deal with Laurel's death, how Team Arrow dealt with her death, the grieving sessions of Captain Lance, I feel like performance-wise and cinematic and writing-wise, that was perfect. It was the best way to approach it. It was just awesome. Diggle dealing with his grieving and his blaming of himself and attacking, Damien Dark's wife and what have you, who's obviously become the mayor, is just perfect. The way they just took the approach with the death of Laurel in this episode and the way they paid respect to the character and the Black Canary mantle. And on top of that, the actress was just perfect. It was just a great way to go, and I loved it. However, there were certain negatives I did have with this episode. First off, the villain of the week ended up being a Black Canary copycat, and what they were trying to do, and I understand what they were trying to do, which was basically try to destroy the memory of Black Canary at the same time paying the respects to it. And what does the mantle of Black Canary mean? Because Black Canary is a legacy character, so it makes sense for characters to want to do, or people in this universe wanting to do things in the name of Black Canary. So it makes sense. All I can really say is I feel like it's not a terrible move with this episode, and the way it wrapped up I think was good. However, I feel like they should have saved this kind of subplot for a future episode. I mean, like, just keep the episode simplistic in the way it should have been, which was Team Arrow deciding what's their next step with Damien Dark, what's their next step with dealing with the grief of losing this character, and now having, a giant hole in the universe of Team Arrow. So I feel like they should have paid more attention to that while saving this subplot with this villain of the week taking on the mantle of Black Canary, and I guess taking justice in her own hands, using that mantle, and just saving that for a future episode. Because I feel like that kind of subplot could be its own plot, and I feel like they kind of just wasted it. However, at the end of the day, it was still a good episode. I think it lived up to the ending sequences of last week. Canary Cry was a good episode. I have to admit, these last several episodes, besides the whole Beehive shit, has to be the best of Arrow has been giving us all season long, and I just can't wait to see where the show goes from here. And at the end of the day, my final verdict for this episode is a solid 8.5 out of 10. I would have given it a 9 if it weren't for the subplot with the girl taking on the mantle and what have you, but in the long run, I think it was awesome. Stephen Amell's Batman voice is pretty freaking nice. Diggle going crazy is pretty cool. Felicity's back. I mean, we hardly had her last week for some reason, so it was cool to have her back for a fucking episode. And just having everybody just going crazy without Laurel was pretty nice. It was just a good way to send that character off, yet paying respects to it. And I love the way they did that, because Black Canary, regardless of how you love Sarah or Laurel, or how you favor Katie Cassidy or Katie Lotz, at the end of the day, the Black Canary deserves respect, even though she's not going to be around. And also, it makes sense that she would go, because we didn't see her in Legends of Tomorrow when we got to go to the future of Star City. And also, on top of that, it's going to be interesting where Arrow goes from here, because I'm guessing somewhere by the end of the season, Oliver and Team Arrow will defeat Damien Dark by some means, but we still have the upcoming threat of Slade Wilson's son, which will be obviously an upcoming storyline. I mean, granted, I'm saving episodes of Legends, so I don't know if they approach the future of Star City again. I don't know if they're going to come back to the past and try and fix the things that they saw in the future or what have you. So it's going to be interesting where Arrow goes from here, like Season 5 and Season 6 or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm definitely interested, and these couple of episodes have been the best and have been keeping on my toes. So with that being said, still, my final verdict is a solid 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'm back reviewing Arrow. I hope you guys enjoyed. Shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jock12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Jock12.